It is on. Oh my God. So never.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters, and welcome to another edition of the Convo podcast with yours truly, Hamzah Qureshi, and my dear brother and co-host, Sufyan Badr.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
All right, so today we are talking about, or more reflecting upon, an event last week, significant, of course, Eid, but it was different, but sort of similarly different, if we can even say that, because we've had an Eid in lockdown before. That was last year, and now, unfortunately, we've had to experience the same once again. And so we thought it would be an opportune time to just reflect upon how it was this time around, and how we felt about it, some reflections on it. So we've aptly titled it Reflections on an Eid in Lockdown. And we will get into the juicy details after the intro video, inshallah. All right, so now let's have a chat about Eid in lockdown. So first of all, Sufyan, let me ask you, how did you feel about this previous Eid? I know that we had a bit of a chat personally about it, and there was a few things that you said that interested me, but I'll ask you the open-ended question first. How was it?
Can I tell you, like, an unfiltered sort of answer to that is that it didn't feel too different to normal Eids for me. It didn't feel too different. And the reason is that, look, in some senses, it was markedly different. Like, for example, you know that absolute beautiful winter morning feeling that you get when you have to, and when you go to pray the Eid prayer in the morning. And you're standing shoulder to shoulder amidst like thousands of other brothers, right? And you're praying. That memorable experience was obviously a miss this time around, and so yes, okay, that's missing, right? And I suppose, you know, obviously having your brothers and sisters, your cousins and whatever is over, that element was missing as well. But what I'm trying to get at is that I feel like Eid in the West, or I know for a fact that back home in Pakistan it's very, very different, and I've not necessarily experienced it firsthand, but heard a lot from my wife and from my wife's family, and from my own extended family as well about how it is. But I suppose because there's this thing that's been brewing in my head, just saying that Eid has just become a bit of a monotonous event, like generally speaking as well. So for me, it wasn't like so different that it was like so deeply felt. So I was like, oh my God, we've now got Eid in lockdown, and it was the most miserable thing ever.
But how is it not like significantly different? Like, I'm assuming that you on Eid, as most people do, you go around friends, family, visit brothers, sisters, whoever, and cousins, all that, or they'll come and see you, and like that's a key part of the experience. Like, to take that out, surely it's very different. Like, how is it not? Like,
it is. So when I say what, it's not that it's not different. So I pointed out two big differences: the morning prayer, and the visiting family. It's the differences. But I'm just saying,
doesn't that affect the vibe of it, the feel of it? Like,
yes and no. Like, this is me personally. Like, honestly, for me, there is not a great vibe for Eid generally, for two reasons. One, because I compare it to how it was growing up, right?
Yeah.
And I thought it was the most amazing thing growing up, getting the money from parents, right? Getting little
Yeah.
gifts and presents and all that sort of stuff. And just the general, the vibrancy, the color as a young person looking out to the world. And we still have that. Like we still put up stuff, but do you see how Eid is like
Yeah, yeah, I get
catered
you.
to the kids? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's coming from that angle, number one. And then number two, I think I've got a lot of exposure to how Eid is celebrated in parts of the Muslim world, especially in Pakistan. And
Yeah.
I've always got that thing in my head saying that it's so different, you know? Like I feel like there's so much more excitement around. Like for example, this is an inherent part of living in the West. Like
Yeah.
you know, we don't really have, apart from that one poster that goes up on Woolies where they have this random,
Yeah,
desolate
yeah.
section of
Coles, Woolies,
Woolies.
or whatever.
I was
Yeah.
like, Eid. And I was like, oh, wow, I feel like I'm in the Muslim world for like,
We're so recognized.
so recognized. But like, obviously in the Muslim world, and in Pakistan, this is certainly the case, it's like the whole country, man.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's true.
the
That's
whole
true.
country gets decorated in posters and you can feel it and it's absolutely amazing.
But we've
So
never had that. Like, if you've never really had that here, which we haven't, right?
yeah,
Then, like, we're not going to expect that to occur.
I
So
know.
our expectations for Eid have to be according to
Yeah,
how
yeah.
we've always experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely. But so for me, it's like what I've experienced as a kid, and then also growing up and like getting a lot more exposure to what's there out there in the rest of the world, how they celebrate it. I feel like I don't. I feel like it's a bigger affair. It's a more exciting affair. And so when I sort of use that to compare to how it is, I feel like it's a really I don't know. For me, Eid typically isn't a really really exciting event in the West. It hasn't like it's exciting. You look forward to it. Don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't look forward to it.
Yeah.
It's not that
You're sounding
it's
really fatalistic, man.
not no. But I want to give you my unfiltered thoughts. Like I don't want
Oh,
to come here
wow.
and say
This is a bit
it
concerning.
is so amazing every year. And this year I was so depressed because I didn't get to visit my cousins and sit with them and share some gifts with them. Like
And
I
what
feel
about
like
all the people who genuinely feel like that? Why are you making such a mockery out of
I'm
that?
not making a mockery. I'm telling you how I feel. So, look, I think for me personally, you get to a certain age, and this is the case. Like, I don't even think it's me personally. I just think this is the case that when you get to a certain age, you start to gear Eid towards the kids
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they're your kids.
absolutely,
You
yeah,
should
100%.
prioritize that, right? I have something against it. I have something like not against kids, but I have something against fundamentally.
Eid should not be fun for the kids.
Fundamentally, Hamza's like, tell us about your Eid. I have something against kids.
And Eid, I don't feel it, and I hate kids.
No, but
This really
I
got
have
dramatic.
something against, I think this is culture that's just developed where Eid is made to be specifically exciting, like and catered towards the kids. I feel like it should be a whole family affair where it should be equally exciting for everyone.
Yeah,
So you should do,
I
for
agree.
example,
But before you progress through the remainder of this complaint, we'll call it euphemistically, I wanted to just go back to
my opinion
something.
or not? Do you want my opinion or not?
Okay, relax, man. Relax. What is
Well,
this?
my
Daylight
opinion-
interview? Calm down. We're having a
Alright, let's go.
conversation. All right. So, what was it that you said? Yeah, look, I agree with you. I agree that it does end up being geared towards the children, but I feel like that's generationally necessary as well. Like, you need to, like, for us, right? And as you mentioned before, it was exciting for you as a child, right?
Yeah.
And that's because your parents made it so, right? Your household, your parents, they made it so. So they took that and they directed it to you as a child so that you'd have that excitement.
Yep.
And you had that for a long period. And then when you transitioned into being the parent now, you do the same natural reorienting of Eid to make it for your children.
Yeah.
And I guess that's part of the procedure in making sure that you maintain the vibe of Eid. Like if, let's say, you get like super crazy fatalistic and this attitude on steroids in the next few years, right? And you're like, what, I'm not feeling it at all now. It's finished, whatever. Obviously, it won't happen, right? But for people who might feel that way, like it's just the vibe dies down and they don't reorient to the kids because it's not feeling that special to them, it's going to kill it for their kids as well. And then for their children's children, eventually it's going to go completely.
I don't know. I don't think
It's an important. I feel like it's an important part of Eid to recognize that it will eventually reorient itself to children. Now, I'm not saying exclusively. I'm not saying that it should only be about the kids and parents should be sitting around on their phones,
But that's how it is.
chat,
And
and
come
that's
on,
it.
let's be honest. Like,
For
that's how it is.
some, for some, yeah.
For the majority, man. Like, it's not. And I'm
Look,
not saying
let me
our
mention
Eid is not
something.
spent like that as well. Like, we don't go and just sit on our phones
Yeah.
like the whole time. You know, there's cakes and there's some gift exchanges and this and that. But I don't know. I just feel like it's actually, I feel the opposite to what I think I think you've misunderstood. Like, I'm trying to say we should make it an even bigger affair for
Okay.
adults as well. Like, we should go out and do recreational, obviously.
I agree. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
really make Eid like, whoa.
I'll give you
looking forward to making this.
what happened with me was really a few Eids ago, prior to lockdown issues. My father decided to do something which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, it was awesome. I absolutely loved it, and the whole family loved it. So everyone's gotten together, you know, all your siblings and whatever else. And my dad decided to do a lucky dip for the adults, only for the adults.
Yeah.
So you do all the exchange for the kids and this and that. And then my dad, he had this massive box and he covered it and he put all these little random gifts in it. And he just goes, all right, now everyone put your hand in and see what you get.
Yeah.
And then that was really fun because it was just like random household items. They weren't, you know, nothing flashy.
Yeah.
It was just fun that it was something for the adults.
Exactly, right? You
It
know,
was so much fun. We loved
honestly,
it.
bro, like one of the most memorable Eids for me personally was one in which we had some adult games that we were playing. Like, my sister had come up with these nice trivia games like for adults, and it was fantastic. Like, honestly, it makes me laugh because like it's like this distant memory in the past.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
can't, absolutely loved it. Like, adults got. We all got together, played these amazing games, right? And
No, I
it was
agree.
like, and you know, it was catered to the kids as well. But don't get me wrong, like, it's not like we take kids out of the equation. But I'm just saying that, look, when you have these Eid experiences, I feel like I'm calling for an investment of greater effort, even for the adults. Like, try and think of something that gets the adults involved as well.
And I guess even the outcome of that, like the
Yeah.
residual outcome, will be that it's better for the kids as well.
Yeah.
Like, if parents are having a greater time, kids will naturally have a better time, and the vibe of it, as we referenced a couple of times now,
Yep.
will be all the better.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
One of the comments is asking if we're wearing our Eid clothes. I know Hamza's certainly wearing.
Yes, I am. I went like all out traditional.
Yeah, and I missed the memo, so I'm not wearing my Eid clothes. I don't want to tell you, you know. Let's leave it there.
Okay, on that point, this is actually an interesting one. The night before Eid, I was thinking, okay, what am I wearing, right? As you do prior to Eid, and I thought, okay, I've got something that's new, I haven't worn before, and I've got other clothes that I, wear for formal occasions or whatever, cultural clothing, this and that. And I was thinking, should I or should I not wear the new clothes? And I was teetering on the edge because I was like, one, it is Eid, so with respect to the occasion, you should, right?
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I was like, but who am I sharing that with? Like,
yeah,
I could save that new outfit for a time when, it's a social event or whatever, and, wear it then.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what should I or shouldn't I do? And I ended up wearing the new one because I thought, look, you got to respect the day, right? Even if you're not sharing it, you got to respect the day.
Yeah. And we had the same conversation in our house as well. Like, one of the members of my household came out and they're like, we're not going anywhere today. No one's coming over. And we were like, but you don't get dressed for them. You get dressed because it's Eid,
Yeah.
And so we made a point of making sure everyone, kids, ourselves, parents, everyone gets dressed, with the fanciest clothes as we do on every Eid. And then obviously the same sort of tradition in terms of making some sweets in the morning, making some sweets for the rest of the day. And, in whatever form the COVID restrictions allow, passing some of those sweets on to, our immediate neighbors or whatever else it was.
Yeah.
So look here, man, we've got to make the most of a not so ideal situation. I'm with you 100%. But this, just moving on to some other issues we could possibly discuss under the umbrella of this topic of Eid and lockdown. Even if it's a Eid that is not exactly ideal, and there's a lot that's missing. We have so much to be grateful for compared to how a lot of people around the world are spending their Eid. You know, we say Eid in lockdown. They literally have like their whole lives, every minute of every day of every month is in lockdown. You know, so even the phrase like Eid in lockdown is a kind of bit of a
Yeah, we're
first
kind
world.
of it's all like we're almost feeling excessively sorry for ourselves.
Yeah,
Like, you know, it's what you say is so true because everyone's looking at when will this lockdown end? Like everyone's looking for the end of it because everyone soon expects the end of it because they know that reasonably assuming it will end in some
yeah,
period of
because
time.
it's an exceptional circumstance,
Yeah,
not the
exactly,
norm.
but it's so not the case for so many.
Yeah, so there's so much to be grateful for. But you know, at the same time, you say if you look at Hajj, for example, you know, last year when Hajj got not cancelled, but it got like seriously
Yeah.
majorly scaled back. We thought that was like a once in a blue moon type of thing. You know, 2020, we witnessed Hajj not taking place,
Yeah,
or we, you know, didn't witness Hajj taking place, or whatever you prefer. But you know, even on this occasion now, it's the second year, and it's gone
yeah.
from 2.5 million to like I think it's like 60,000 or something people, just Saudi Arabians, Hujjaj who were vaccinated,
Yeah.
got an opportunity to do tawaf around the Kaaba, and you know millions of people around the globe did for a second year in a row after for some people having saved up for their
Yeah.
entire lifetime, like honestly people in Pakistan I know that save up for like 10, 15, 20 years to be able to go to Hajj,
Yeah, yeah.
and they haven't had for a second year the opportunity to fulfill that obligation. So that's a big one as well. That's a really
But
big
you
one.
know, like in those kinds of circumstances, we can sort of expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obviously will shower them with his mercy and everything. It's beyond their capacity, and you know, may He reward them for their efforts and their savings and everything, and perhaps grant them the opportunity the following year or the one after, or whenever it
Absolutely,
is that He
yeah.
subhanahu wa ta'ala deems fit. I know that with my family, we had some Eid Zoom calls, which seems to be like an increasing trend
Yeah, Zoom
nowadays
is
because
really becoming a part of our
yeah, what do you
life.
reckon about that? How do you feel about these Eid Zoom call things?
Look, it's
Did you
good
end
to.
up? Did you do anything like that?
Yeah, we did. Like I literally saw probably every member of my family on.
Oh, well, that's good. But
You
how
know,
do you feel about it?
like you know, it's the best. Like I say, it's making the best of a bad
Yeah,
situation. Like I would rather see them in their Eid clothes. You know, my sisters, my brother, my nieces and nephews.
yeah,
I'd rather see them in their Eid clothes than not see them at all. You know,
yeah.
it's a far cry from actual company. You know, but you gotta,
We
you
had
got.
um we had like this online games night kind of thing.
Yep.
So it was like everyone was there on Zoom, and then there was some games like there's this one drawing game, that online scribble. I can't remember what it's called. So playing that, we just found these few online games and just started playing them with the family, and it was like you're saying, it was making the best of a bad situation. Everyone was talking, chatting, having a laugh. So alhamdulillah, we were able to do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, these whole Zoom gatherings, they feel so strange though. Like they feel so strange to me.
How do you
Like
mean? How do you mean?
okay, because for me, Zoom is a platform for things like work, schooling, more sort of not your personal life kind of things, right? Like that's what Zoom has been for me, and that's going back to the last lockdown. It's always
Yeah.
been that, right? If you've got a particular meeting or a particular professional commitment or whatever, you use Zoom for that. And I
Yeah.
don't know, I kind of feel like maybe it's like being invasive. Like Zoom is now entering our personal lives. It's like, you know, it's this
But it's
tool.
kind of like it was kind of like always there. Like Skype, for
Yeah,
example,
I
has been
know, but you didn't need it that much. Like you'd Skype your cousins and families overseas because you can't physically see them.
WhatsApp video calls. That happens all the time.
Yeah, but not very often because you're seeing your family often anyway. So
Okay.
how often do you do video calls with them? Not
Yeah.
often. Like you do it with those people maybe interstate or
Yeah,
different
that's
country,
true.
whatever.
I mean, you're
But
gonna
I
have
don't know. I
to
kind of felt
technology.
like the pandemic and its tools like Zoom were
Yeah.
sort of impeding upon that sacred personal sphere. Like, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like, you don't belong here. Go away.
Yeah.
But what can you do? Like, it felt really weird to me. It honestly felt very, very strange that something that I use, because it's, for me, it's always been like this temporary thing, like just use Zoom because we can't meet in person.
Yeah.
And I'm talking professionally, right? In workplaces and whatever else.
And then Zoom just like very
It slyly just
demonically
walked
just
into our
says,
personal
you know,
lives.
I'm here to stay, buddy.
Yeah, and now I'm in your personal life, and I'm in your family WhatsApp chains, and sending the link and all
Yeah,
that.
fair enough. I gotcha. Yeah.
And I don't know, it kind of like, yeah, you get used to it, well, sort of, in that hour or so that you have the call, but it just felt really strange. It just felt like it was an invasive influence that was just coming in where it's not welcomed.
Yeah, fair enough.
But in saying that, what can you do? Like, honestly, what can you do? You either that or nothing. So you make do.
Look, moving on to some other issues, I think something that's been in the news a lot is obviously the recent Delta variant of coronavirus.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of conversations around vaccinations, anti-vaxxers, people protesting against lockdown.
Yeah, yeah.
That is, you know, just moving slightly away from strictly Eid in lockdown, but that's become a recent issue that we've sort of had to face and had to have a conversation around of late. Um, how's that been received on your end? Like, how have you reacted to all of that?
To be honest, it's a really, really, really big topic. So I haven't sort of got my head around it entirely. And look, with regards to the protests, initially I was just thinking, okay, what's the actual sort of core concern that's being pushed here, like freedom and everything else, and even freedom itself, the word, its connotations, its liberal sort of tinges and everything,
Yeah,
that sort of didn't really sit well with me. I'm not saying that I was like fully ardently against, but just the whole approach of it didn't really sit well with me, and also that a lot of the people behind it and attending it were sort of your conservative right wing types who are mostly generally, and I know I'm generalizing, stereotyping here, but fairly anti-Islam, anti-Muslim, anti-migrant, anti-other, so to speak, as well.
yeah.
So just it kind of felt weird to
There was
me
a
that
couple
it
of
was side by
protests in
side.
like Lakemba and
Yeah, I know, I saw those as well. But
West
one
Hill.
one of the other things that was interesting, and I can see more about the validity of this, was the issue with the economic side of things, like people who are out of work and don't have an income and still having to pay for things and sort of government, yeah, some measures here and there, but that being a really, really difficult reality. Like I can see why people would be protesting against that.
Yeah,
Because then it's like you've got this potential threat of COVID, right? And that's how it is for them, right?
yeah,
It's a potential threat. It's
yeah.
not like I walk out of my house and I'm 100% getting COVID. In fact, if you look at the numbers, from about 100,000 tests, roughly 100 people test positive. So it's like a 1 in 1,000 chance, so to
To
speak.
the financial loss, which is a definite.
Immediate and 100%. Like, you don't go and work, you will not have the money to pay your rent, to buy your groceries, to do whatever. And people may well have dipped into their savings last year when this similar occurrence occurred, and now they've got to do so again, or they may have exhausted it. And so for them, what
Yeah.
do you do? Like, I
I don't
can
know.
sympathize a lot more with that.
Let me just chime in with a suggestion. I'm inclining towards more of a critical view of some of the protests. A little bit critical. Like, you know, I can understand where you're coming from, but I don't see how in that instance, especially because you know it's a really strong government measure that you know they're not going to change because of your protest. Like, because the science of it, which is the basis on which they actually suggests that the protest itself is going to make right. And I do find there to be an element of strong irony to the fact that protesters are coming to protest against the lockdown of a virus against which they've protected themselves using masks. Like, they recognize that there's a real threat here. Like for example, what I'm trying to say is, like, perhaps the protest could have been conducted different, like very, very differently.
On Zoom.
For example, if you had a really well organized, socially distant type of protest I don't know, one of those silent protests, hold huge banners, because the whole idea of protesting is to pass that political message. And you could have done that in a lot of ways, like strong video messages, viral messages, combined with massive banners and silent protests.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot more,
whatever else.
a lot more to this, which is that I don't think that those attending the protest, and again, generalizing here, I don't think they buy the narrative that it's as existential a threat as government is making it out to be. And so when they themselves are not in agreement with COVID being a crisis as it's being made out to be, then why would they have a concern with social distancing? Why would they have a concern with?
But that's what I'm saying. Okay, look, if there's a complete,
the vast majority, it seems, we're not wearing masks, and
I don't know. I'm looking at very different footage. I'm looking at the ones that are all wearing masks and they're crowded in together.
Look, I'm looking at. I don't know. We'd have to gauge it on the ground a little more, but from what I saw of it, a lot of the attendees do not give the COVID issue the same degree of crisis level concern as government does. And naturally, that's why they gathered together to do this.
Yeah. Look, my basic thoughts on that, because, I suppose you should really research the issue very, very well before you pass some kind of, but I'm not commenting in my capacity as, some immunologist or as some, social researcher or something. It's just a conversation around some key issues and how it's affecting us. But I think that, sorry, just give me 1 second. Yeah, so I think that if you're talking about those people that just don't have any real concern around the virus and are certainly not treating it as like an emergency situation, I find myself like disagreeing with that, especially with all the research coming out of all the other countries talking about that Delta variant and how it's had a very different effect to the kind of impact that we saw of the virus first time round. I also think, however, that there is a voice in the other camp that is it just doesn't understand how to communicate. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are pro-vaccination, that are pro-lockdown, are missing the mark when it comes to communicating their message. Like, for example, they don't recognize that Pfizer, for example, as the pharmaceutical company that is at the heart of this, one of the companies that's at the heart of this, they had a vice president of their immunology section of Pfizer.
Yeah, I know you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, who came out and he said that, look, and it's a reasoned voice. It wasn't like, oh, vaccines are wrong, full stop. It was like a reasoned voice where he said, look, when it comes to old people, I'm with you, but I'm not going to recommend this for young people, for example, right? And he had some concerns around the impact of that. There was also the chief health officer of Victoria, which I think someone who's maintained that position for 15 years, a local voice, a chief health medical officer who's coming out and saying that I personally wouldn't recommend it for young people, that now becomes, I'm against people who come out and say, oh, conspiracy theories, these people are just conspiratorial, they're against vaccines, they're against lockdown. Yeah. I feel like the conversation's amiss. Like, we're not listening to each other.
I also think that at times, that's like a deliberate mischaracterization as well, just to silence it, just to not give it any airtime. Yeah. And so anyone who says, oh, look, I kind of question it, it's like, oh my God, you're anti-vax, you're this, you're that, you're a lunatic, right? You're misinformed, you don't know, and that's not the case. That's not the case at all. And I think part of the mischaracterization is deliberate, because that's an easy way to just not give it any credibility. Yeah. But also I was going to mention, what was I going to say? I forget, subhanAllah. What was it? I can't remember for the life of me. Yeah, I can't remember. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, all good, man. So
it'll come back to me at some point.
Yeah, that's fine. So no, I was just saying that, look, it is for a community, I think for our community out there, it's a bit of a testing time. Really testing time for some people more than others.
Sorry, I'm just going to interrupt because I remembered what I was going to say.
Yeah, go for it.
Which is that on the other side of this whole I find myself questioning the agencies and the organizations that are at the heart of this entire issue. And they are governments and pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Both of whom are sketchy, to say the least. Like, pharmaceutical companies are arguably some of the most outright evil on the planet. Like, in terms of how they conduct themselves, in terms of the degree of their oppression, in terms of their sort of capitalistic outlook that is fatal for so many people, like just purely fatal. Like, their approach results in deaths without question, pharmaceutical companies and industries and everything else. And Western governments, who are no strangers to lying to their citizens and will enact measures at their whim to silence opposition. Like, when you've got those agencies at the front of everything, it really should have you questioning. But for me, it's difficult to draw the line between your healthy skepticism and sort of being overly conspiratorial, so to speak.
Yep.
And I find that difficult. Where do you draw the line? Like, yes, pharmaceutical companies you wouldn't usually trust, but then at the same time, on occasion you're forced to, right? Like, if you've got a particular ailment or an issue or cancer or whatever, and you need to take particular, medications for it or chemotherapies or whatever, then you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So are we saying that the vaccine's utterly useless and dangerous and whatever, or is it that it's effective, but there's another agenda, or what is it? Like, what's the actual position on it? And having pharmaceutical companies and governments be at the forefront of this, I think, should raise questions. Now, I don't know what the answer to those questions are, but I think there should be some degree of healthy skepticism. But it's difficult to draw the boundaries of that for me.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Look, I think we have to also be careful because, like, when you say that you have voices questioning how effective the vaccines would be, I don't know. It's the difference between having a voice and having a credible voice, I suppose, out there. And how do you judge that credibility, I suppose? But I feel like we've got that in innate ability to judge something as substantial versus just rhetorical. Do you know what I mean? Like, people will come out and they'll collapse an entire argument into just some mad rhetoric of like Western imperialism. If that's the start and the end of the argument, then I probably wouldn't give that too much airtime. Like, it's got to have some substantial medical, fine combing in terms of, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 credible authorities have said X, Y, Z. They maintain that position from June of last year, irrespective of which strain and then which new version of which vaccine has come out. Like, for example, and because of that, I feel like my position that I'm in at the moment is that I'm sort of I'm pro lockdown, and just let me finish. I'm pro lockdown, even in the way that it's being conducted at the moment. But I'm perhaps haven't done enough research to be pro or anti the vaccine. And the reason I say that is because in terms of the lockdown, I feel like when you go against that as a measure, right? I feel like there are so many other different ways in which people could have protested, like not just the stuff I mentioned earlier, but even if there's, for example, and we've seen some evidence of it, if there's like a difference in the way that lockdowns are being meted out, is the appropriate phrase, in the western part of Sydney compared to eastern parts of Sydney, there's that conversation to be had. Even then, like, I feel like one of the better recourses would be to literally just document all the times, places, and then whether you want to take a legal recourse to that or whether you want to take just a public opinion recourse to that, you'd do a lot better to sort of respond to the lockdown rather than vindicate those on the other side by actually going out and protesting in ways that are just irrational. I can't see the need, even if it's a strong financial need for people who are suffering from a business point of view, to just go out and just spread the virus in the ways that we know are probably going to result in more clusters in other parts of the city, of the state.
But just to provide the other side of it,
Yeah.
like as I was saying before, I assume, again, I'm not certain, generalizing everything else, all the disclaimers, but they don't buy the narrative of it being that contagious. Like, for example, I assume many would not give great credibility to the numbers that come from government. Like, why should we believe that? You know, like if that's the angle that's coming from, then it's
But
difficult
the
to
guy
argue
on
against it.
Instagram was confirming it the night before.
Oh, yeah. From
No,
government.
on it.
But like if someone says, I don't believe that the government's being honest with us with regards to the numbers.
But
I don't
you know
think
what?
they're being honest with regards to...
Has anyone said that? Like any
Many
credible
people say
voice?
that.
No, credible voices, like scientific voices. Look, there are people who have backgrounds in science and background in immunology who have had issues with the way that it's being dealt. For example, the vaccine should not be given to young people because the Delta variant has more of an impact on the symptoms than the previous variants, right? Like that's one voice that's come out from a scientific background, credible, whatever else, qualified, whatever you want to call it. But such voices have not come out questioning the numbers. Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you even question 100 numbers? Like, why would you question that? Where you've had thousands of people dying in other parts of the world. And okay, if that figure was inflated of 1,000 people, let's say it was grossly inflated and it was 300 or 400 people dying. All we're saying in Australia is that 100 cases per day, not deaths. It's only been 61. So if you want to question something, why the hell would you question the numbers? Like, that makes
for the
no
sake
sense.
of saying that it's not as spreading as wildly as is being suggested. So it's not like it's going everywhere and it's getting here, it's getting there, and there's so many cases and it's going ballistic. Like that's the narrative that's being questioned.
I don't think they're saying that it's going ballistic like that. I think that given the fact that that new variant is operating in a different way now, which is that it is what was it? That it's transmissibility. Like the genetic mutation is leading to more transmissibility now. That's what they're worried about. That it's that the Delta variant has upended the world's vaccination systems as well. Do you know what I mean? Like I think that's the narrative.
Yeah, I get that that's the narrative, but yeah. I'd assume that a lot of people wouldn't buy that.
I get it. But for me personally, because like I think that we've got to go beyond like just any voice coming out and saying, and we've got to look at. That's what I was pointing to some. Like I say, okay, for someone like, and I don't believe just because there's an Insta post with a person's face and a quote, I don't believe it. Like I'd have to go in, look at Google the person's name, look at, okay, can we find credible websites, government websites, ironically, and other places where, where you can verify that this person actually, enjoyed this post for this many number of years. But, if you do get that vice president of Pfizer or the chief health officer of Victoria saying the things they say, I feel like that's got a lot more merit to it than just a.
Look, I don't know the voices, but that's the thing. Like, I'm assuming that it's a general voice. Like, I just haven't looked into who are the potential voices behind that voice.
Yeah, well, I guess that's
there very well may be, but I just haven't looked into it as deeply. Yeah. So I wouldn't be able to rattle them off.
But basically, you're anti-vaxxer. I'm joking.
Look, it's a big conversation, and
I'm just joking. Yeah,
it's a nice little diversion from the topic, as you made it.
Yeah,
nice and small. Didn't take.
To be honest, I think it's probably the more interesting. Like, I think because we're having these conversations a couple of days post Eid, and the conversation in the community's moved on as well. Like, yes, we felt Eid lockdown, and I know you're still wearing the same clothes from the Eid day.
Yeah, haven't changed.
I'm just checking.
Really trying to keep the vibe.
And you're like,
it's for those kids that you hate.
You're the worst. You changed out of your Eid clothes. You're the worst. Why aren't you feeling the vibe anymore? But like I feel like the conversation in the community sort of moved a little bit. But they're very interesting times, man. Like schools and the way that they went to lockdown, and poor kids doing their HSC exams. Their
a whole different
trial exams are potentially suspended or modified significantly. and for kids to have to just adapt like that,
Yeah,
like I can
very difficult
understand
task.
year 8 kids watching Dora the Explorer videos or whatever it is, kids do these days at school. I'm probably confusing that with what my kid does. He's in kindergarten, but that's what it's just a mad haze between kindergarten and year 11, and then apparently year 12. But yeah, like for those kids in those situations, and for businessmen, small people, like small family businesses,
Yeah, it's very
like
tough.
your heart really goes out to them. I know. I was speaking to an accountant. He was saying that he's really, really busy these days with a lot of people trying to access the grants that the government has offered. So I know there's some relief there, but I don't think it's like significant.
Yeah, it doesn't cover it.
It really doesn't cover it. It's just like some relief.
Yeah.
Some relief.
But yeah, amongst all the difficulty, like, imagine someone who's like, yeah, look, my income is gone. I still have to pay rent and buy groceries. Like,
yeah,
where's that money coming from? And then, yeah, okay, I might get a few hundred here and there every fortnight or whatever it might be, through whichever government programs, but that's not alleviating the issue.
100%.
And so, look, I can definitely sympathize with that. It's very, very tough for very many people.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
And I think one note to perhaps end it on or bring it towards an end is I noticed something really, really beautiful on and I want to share it on the Instagram page of one of the members of our community, someone who we've actually had on this podcast previously, Sister Dalia Ayub. She describes herself as an inner peace seeker, which is a really nice little title. I want to share. I don't think I can share the video itself without logging in to the podcast or to the to my Instagram account. But it's basically, if you go onto her Instagram, you can catch this really nice short video where she talks about given the difficult times that we are experiencing with coronavirus and with a lot of people, struggling in the way that they're struggling, 5 things that we can do on a daily basis to try and keep ourselves like on top of it, keep ourselves connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yeah.
So she goes through these things saying a daily wird with our Quran, a daily azkar, and just like with a presence of mind, not just like rattling off, the morning azkar and the evening azkar, prayer, but praying on time specifically. And then she mentioned 2 others, which I can't remember off the top of my head. What was it? Prayer, azkar, Quran, dua, just making regular dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she was actually saying, like, for those things that you think that you probably wouldn't make dua for normally, but she's saying, like, I'm feeling really upset today, just turning to Allah and telling him that and making dua about it, and subhanAllah, the justification she was giving for that was really, really like, it's legit. She was saying that you have a lot of people, my mother's a classic example, who's really, really fond of company, like her children coming over, sitting around, talking. And you have people, elderly people especially, who find they might have some exception because of, compassionate grounds, and they could get a visitor once a week or twice a week. But it's not the same, having your family around you.
It's not
It's affected people on a daily basis, like everyday people, and then kids doing the HSC and small business owners and everyone. And it's just it's a right time, to really remind ourselves that we need to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and just keep ourselves, connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through these measures. I thought I'll put in a link on our page, inshallah. If anyone's interested, they can watch that video. It's a short video, but a really, really good one, I thought.
And just sort of mirroring that as well, on the day of Eid, I was just one brother mentioned something. He a neighbor of mine. So we were in touch via WhatsApp and things, just with some neighbors. And one thing that one of my neighbors mentioned, which I thought was beautiful, he goes, look, in this time, all we've really got are our families and our deen. That's all we've got. And if we take care of these things, then inshallah, through that we can earn the blessing of Allah. Because what else do we have right now? Like, we've just got our families who are with us in the same household. Not even your extended family, just your family in that house. and your deen. That's all you've got.
Yeah.
So use this time to try and be the best you can with them.
Yeah.
Be the best you can with your family.
It's true.
And be the best you can with your deen.
It's like those things that you realize afterwards that, oh damn, I actually had so much unrestricted, unfiltered, raw time with my kids. I probably should have spent it differently, you know. So maybe we can.
Perhaps there's blessings in disguise there.
Yeah, maybe we can not have that regret in hindsight and really spend some quality time with family and stuff.
Yeah.
Inshallah. So
yeah, we can leave it at that.
Good chat.
Good chat. Nice convo.
Like a genuinely good chat as opposed to the other good chat.
It's always a good chat when it's with you, bro. That's
true. Very true. I can completely agree with that. No, I'm
not going to reciprocate the platitudes.
Feelings mutual. 100%. And I'll ask you to stay on even after we go off live because it's fun to chat to you about a few things. But we'll end it there.
Thanks for letting our audience know of that. No worries.
Jazakallahu khairan, everyone, for watching, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's reflections. Inshallah, we will catch you guys in a couple of weeks from now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.